When do we need quadratic formula? So quadratic formula is used when you can't factor anything or factor anything further. I have some problems that are from the book, but I never wrote down the page number, so I'm just going to give them to you and give you a second to copy them down. The first question that we're going to do is f of x equals x to the third plus 125. And we're going to be able to take this, factor it. We'll have to use some quadratic formula, and we're going to sketch it. And we're going to figure out what it is we need to do with this one. Speaking from a template standpoint, we begin by figuring out what kind of degree this is. So this is a degree 3, because the highest exponent is a third. And that means it's a cubic. And because it's a positive x to the third, our cubic is going to resemble this. So why is this so different looking? Well, it's missing some stuff in between. It's got the x to the third term, and then it's got a constant, but the x squared and the x term are missing, which kind of puts a little bummer on things. The next thing we have to be able to do is find our y-intercept. Well, that's super easy because it's just 0, whatever the constant is. So this one is going to cross the y-axis way up at 125. Of course, the last step that we need in order to sketch these things is our x-intercepts. And that is where the concept comes in. Okay? So do you notice that this is a sum of cubes? Sum of cubes. And I know you did this in a lesson last week, where you take the cubed root of these things, and this becomes the first term, the first factor. So the cubed root of x to the third is x, and the cubed root of 125 is 5. And you keep the sign of the term that it is, so that stays a plus. Then you've got a longer term, which is a trinomial. And basically, if you take the cube root of this, that's 1/3 of it, technically speaking. So this represents the other 2/3. So in order for me to get x times something gives me x cubed, it's got to be an x squared. There's the other 2/3 of it. And then 5 times what gives me 125? Oh, that's 25. So that's going to be the end over here. And this end term is always positive, always. It's this little booger in the middle that makes things a little bit more complicated. But all I do is multiply the first parenthesis together, so 5 times x, and take the opposite sign. There you go. That's all you have to do. So this is factored. That's great. That means that x plus 5 equals 0, and x is -5. There's one real root. So I know that my cubic is going to cross the x-axis at -5. Can I factor this one? No. But I need to figure out what the x values are. So this is where quadratic formula comes in. It comes in when you've got a trinomial that you can't factor. So my a is 1, my b is -5, and my c is 25. And I'm going to do the quadratic formula. So I've got x equals my -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. There it is. Now I just have to evaluate it and see what it's doing. So negative becomes a +5 plus or minus square root. Let's do some calculating. This is 25, +25, minus 100. Oh, well, +25 minus 100 is -75. And this is 2 times 1, which is 2. We're almost there. I think you can see where this is going because you got negative under the square root. Can you simplify the square root of 75? Yeah. 25 times 3 makes 75, and 25 is a perfect square. So I'm going to take the I out and the 25 out, which makes it 5, and leave the 3. So the I takes care of the negative. Square root of 25 is 5. And the 25 times the 3 is a 75. So that's where that comes from. Can I reduce this at all? No, 2 doesn't go into 5 evenly. And so this is where my other 2 zeros are. So this is my real one. And this is my 2 complex ones. How do I know it's 2 complex? Because of the plus and the minus. That counts as 2. And then, of course, this one is my 1 real. We'll do that. Bloop. Now it's time for me to graph it. So I know we haven't really talked about transformations at all, but I do want to let you know that I know you've seen this before. And that is that a regular cubic, because I saw Ms. Meek do it, looks like this through the origin. We are passing through the y-axis at 125. That's a whole lot of space between my origin and my 125. And my other 2 complex numbers, I'm not crossing the x-axis at all. I just know I have to cross it -5. And it's going to look something like that. So it's going to cross, how did I miss? It's going to cross at -5. It's going to cross at 125. It's got to look like this. It's got to come down, swirly come up. And that's what it looks like.